So today is March 20th, 2019. And about 8 years ago, on this exact day, was the day I went to my very first concert. Now, how do I remember that today was my very first concert? Well, a couple of different ways. Personally, I remember myself because it was a very significant day for me. It was such a special day for me because it was my very first concert, because of the artist that I went to go and see. But I also remembered that I went to my very first concert on this day 8 years ago because Facebook reminded me. Now, this is the second time that I've made a video about something that Facebook has reminded me of, whether it be something that I post or something that I was tagged in, or I don't know. I feel like I should make my own little mini series out of this. So all the way back 8 years ago, it was 2011, and I was a freshman in high school. Oh my God, man. If I had to think back to freshman year mark, I was a much different person, a very, very, very different person. I had different tastes in music. I had different tastes in activities. I didn't even dream of being a photographer or a videographer at that point. That wasn't even a thought in my head. I think, in fact, what I wanted to be was either an engineer, or I think this was back when I was starting to kind of develop an interest for biology or environmental science. I don't know. It was one of the two. So instead of being a photographer, instead of being somebody who was interested in that or interested in making movies, I was instead interested in, like video games. I love video games. Call of Duty Black Ops was my favorite video game and still is to this day. So instead of going out, taking pictures and making YouTube videos, I actually always had a thought of making a YouTube channel right around that time, but I just never knew how to do it. My interest really lied with going hiking, going backpacking, and then also staying in and playing video games, which are two totally conflicting interests. If you needed to find me, I was probably going to be outside, or I was probably going to be indoors playing Xbox, playing Call of Duty Black Ops on Xbox. But in addition to loving the outdoors, playing video games, this was also a time when I was beginning to develop my own identity, or my own personality, I guess, and trying to develop who is Mark Moody? Who is, who am I? Which I know sounds really ridiculous for a 15-year-old to do. And for the longest time, I always looked up to, different family friends and different people for, certain influences like taste in music, or even, kinds of movies and things like that to watch. But during this time, right around the end of my freshman year, was when I began to really develop my own interests and develop my own taste in things. I was really the only kid that lived in the house. My sister was starting her freshman year of college. My brother was in his junior year of college. Essentially, I was an only child in the house. So I kind of had to take this time to really discover who I was, or, try to make my own decisions or influence myself. And one of those ways with doing that was my taste in music. A lot of kids my age, they loved the pop music, they loved the rap music, they really liked Jay-Z, they loved Kanye West, they loved Lil Wayne. Wiz Khalifa was starting to get big, but there was always this one artist who went by the name of XV. His real name was Donovan Johnson, and he was a rapper from Wichita, Kansas, but he wasn't a mainstream artist. He was very underground. Some people that I went to school with knew who XV was, other people didn't. Other people were more, I guess, focused on the bigger named artists, the popular folks. But I was a big fan, and I mean a huge fan, of this guy XV. So my brother actually showed me an XV music video about a year prior to my very first concert, and the song was called Fall Out the Sky. I loved that song. Immediately the first time I heard it, I was like, this is I don't know what it is, but there's something about this song that I really, really like. I couldn't describe it. I couldn't, process it. But the feeling of that song just kind of pulled me in. And then there were other songs that I found, and then from there I discovered this guy's whole discography, and I kept it all on my little iPod that I had at the time, which was actually a busted up iPhone. Every single one of XV's songs was on this iPhone. I listened to his tracks every single day. Every day before school on the bus ride to it, every day after school on the bus ride home, when I was doing homework, when I was doing chores, whatever you name it, this was the guy I was listening to. So going back to February of 2011, I think it was, one of my old childhood friends, Nathaniel, he came over one day, and we were talking, hanging out for a little bit. Now, he knew that I loved this guy XV. He knew that this was my favorite artist, my favorite rapper of all time. And so he said to me, he was like, hey, dude, XV's coming to Towson. He's coming to this venue up in Towson. And, we should totally go. We should get tickets and go. And obviously, he and I were 15 and 14, respectively. And we both couldn't get into this venue unless we had an adult, or unless, we were 18. I was never anybody to ask my parents to, go to a concert or to, go hang out or something like that. I was never somebody like that. But there was something about this, and I was like, I have to ask. I have to go see this guy. So I ended up asking my parents, and they were like, yeah, if everything goes good, if you're doing good in school, sure, you can go. And the thought of my parents coming with me to a concert is one of those, they're cramping my style kind of things. But luckily, that didn't end up happening. And then after that, my parents came home and they told me, hey, Tyler, who is another very good family friend of ours, he works for the radio station or works for the media station up there at Towson University. And they mentioned, hey, he can get you free tickets. Like, he can get you in. Maybe he can take you to the concert. And I was like, that is the coolest thing in the world. Or if somebody who's not my parents could take me to this concert, I would feel so great. So now fast forwarding a couple more weeks and we get to the weekend of the concert. So that weekend was a very weird weekend. There was a bunch of other stuff that happened, but I really don't feel need to mention all that. So my dad ended up taking me all the way up to Towson. It took me over to Tyler's place, and then Tyler and we went straight over to the concert. So a lot of my friends growing up, they had already been to their very first concert when they were like 10 or 11, and they had gone and seen the Jonas Brothers when they were still a thing. Me, this was my very first concert. I was 15. I was going to see a couple of, underground artist with Travie McCoy, who was big at the time, just touring around the US. I was only interested in one of these guys. So this concert took place in this small venue called The Wrecker, and I had no clue what to expect when we went inside. So I was the youngest kid there, and all these other people there were in college or out of college, but they were all going there just to see Travie McCoy. A few of them, I think, were going there to see other artists. So the first people that went up was this group called Bad Rabbits, and they were actually pretty good. I liked their music so much that I actually followed them for a little bit after the concert. The second dude up was XV. My hero, the guy I looked up to, the inspiration behind my successes and whatnot in high school was going up. And he went up there, he got up on stage with this signature green backpack because he, went by this nickname, the kid with the green backpack, and it was this whole thing. And I don't even know how to describe it, but it was one of the coolest feelings ever. It was amazing because I was in the same room as my hero, as a guy who I looked up to. I was like 30 feet away from this guy. It was one thing if you hear this guy's voice in the headphones or, from your iPod, but it's another thing when you see this person, when you see this guy live, when you see someone that means that much to you in the flesh. It was the first time I had ever experienced something like that. And that whole night, I just thought about that. I was like, I can't believe I saw him. But he gets up there, he does a bunch of these signature songs. He did Awesome, he did Isn't It Awesome, he did Nevermind, he did a Mirror's Edge remix, which was one of my favorite songs. And I knew the words to every single one of them, except for two, because he came in and did a couple freestyles, and you don't know words to a freestyle because it's a freestyle. All in all, there were so many different emotions, so many different feelings going on in my head because this was my very first concert. This wasn't like an artist that, is in like the list of artists that I like. This was the only guy that I listened to. This was the only artist that I loved. Now, for somebody like me at the time, if you only listen to one person, you only listen to their music only, it's like the only thing that you know. And then seeing that person for real, live in concert, it's like a whole other experience for you. Now, for me, seeing someone like that at my very first concert ever, it was a whirlwind of emotion, a whirlwind of thoughts. It was all these different things that I couldn't really comprehend. I took some pictures, and these are the only things that I have to remember of the night. And these were horrible, horrible pictures. There's a couple where you can tell that it's him. Like, you can see the green backpack in a few. There's one where you can see he's got his hand up in the air, and it's super, super blurry, but man, those iPhone 3Gs were terrible for taking pictures in low light. I only took 5 pictures, and these are the worst pictures ever. I'm not mad at them. I'm not mad that these are the only pictures. I wish I could have taken video, but man, let me tell you, if I could have taken video, I totally would have. But making this a concert photo and then comparing that to what I make now is a little out there. But regardless, my photos of concerts and artists and venues and shows and whatnot are completely different and 100% better than this. But interestingly enough, The Wrecker, which was the venue that XV played at, is no longer The Wrecker. The Wrecker ended up becoming Torrent Nightclub several years ago. And when I was a DJ, I got to play there a couple of times. One of the biggest thoughts in the back of my head was the last time I was ever in here, I was in the audience, and now I'm up on stage. So even though the venue changed, the history of that building still stuck with me and is still influenced me to this day. So it's kind of interesting when things like this from 8 years ago, these little bits, these little moments of my past, somehow come full circle and even influence me and stick with me to the present day and most likely into the future as well. For the artist, he's still my favorite guy. I still listen to him, not every single day, but on a regular basis, I find myself coming back to XV's music. With the venue, I still work at Torrent every now and then, helping out other artists, taking pictures, getting video for them. Now, I've been to plenty of concerts since, I've been to plenty of shows since, I've seen a lot of my favorite artists in concert, but this show, without a doubt, is my all-time favorite because it was my first, because it was XV, and because it was an experience that had such a profound impact on my life. It's nearly impossible for me to forget something like this. Even if Facebook does remind me, this is still a moment that will stick with me forever and ever. But nevertheless, Facebook, you reminded me once again of a very, very special moment in my life. And for that, I thank you, Facebook. With that being said, guys, that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this one. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.